How are you, Joanna Ferrari?
I am better than most, Anthony.
Fantastic. So great to hear. And we're going to be talking about how we can help others, create a better day, a better life, and really keen to get your latest insights based on our discussion prior to the recording. So, just before we rip in, I'd love you to just bring the listeners up to date with who you are, what you do, and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So, Joanna Ferrari, people call me JJ. I went through a gender transition a while ago, and JJ kind of stuck because JJ stood for John and Joanna because John was my previous name. So I still go by JJ. But what I do nowadays is I own a couple of businesses. So I own a mentor business called Active Mentor. I'm still doing a lot of speaking and talking to businesses about actually how to find happiness, which is such a perfect topic. I own a web design company for speakers and professional services. And other than that, I'm just enjoying my grandkids and having fun with life.
Fantastic. Well, let's kick off with what is happiness to you?
What is happiness to me? If you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have had a very different answer, right? I would have been like, happiness is making more money. Happiness is, being out with my friends, getting drunk, right? Or happiness is, just being at peace with myself. And I've got a very strange answer for you because what I've come to find is that happiness, I find most of my happiness in taking care of business. So, and that means building a great reputation, and it also means getting great rewards for building that great reputation. And then the second thing that I really believe makes up happiness and the most of my wealth is the relationships that I've accumulated over the years. You start to put them into like different categories, right? So you've got your VIPs, and then you've got your gold group, and then you've got your blocked group, right? So you've got all these different people in your life, and I've really come to find, especially over the last year, it was a very tough year. Um, that I found most of my happiness in doing business and really working on things that gave people a lot of, not, I don't want to say motivation, but inspiration and help in cultivating a happier community or even a happier culture within a business.
So, like in terms of what I'm hearing, like summarizing it, it would be very much focusing on your priorities, and that's certainly around the business side of things, and relationships are really important to you. So when you're focusing on your big priorities, you feel very fulfilled, and that I guess that mission around business is certainly something that gives you meaning and purpose. Would you say?
I would say that most people don't actually realize that it doesn't matter what your role is in a business, you should be looking to build the best possible relationship. I'm sorry, reputation. If you're working on building the best possible relationship for yourself at something you want to be known for, right? If you do that, you're actually going to start to get better rewards. And if you think about it, if you're working on creating a very happy work life, uh, you can't, all you can do is be happy in it. You know what I mean? So building a reputation for what I wanted to do. So being a skillful problem solver, that's my number one thing, right? Being a skillful problem solver. I mean, I do mentoring, I do a lot of speaking, I'm doing a lot of coaching. I mentioned to you before we started chatting, I'm actually writing a book, right? And all of those things are about being a skillful problem solver. So that's the reputation that I want. And so, because of that, if I work at those things and I enjoy them, then I'm going to get great rewards. And two of them that you just mentioned, it becomes extremely meaningful. and you want to do it, then you don't even need motivation anymore, right? It becomes very satisfying because you not only find out things about the topic, but you find out a lot about yourself, right? And what it means to be happy, or what it means to have a great reputation, and what you want to be known for. So it really goes deeper into that. And obviously then there's different monetary rewards too, especially when you build a strong reputation. So let's say if you were just working in customer service, if you were the best in customer service, and you knew that when customers came on the line, you were going to do everything you could to actually help that person, and the business knew that as well, right? All of a sudden you become the go-to for that. And people that actually have that kind of an idea, if they want it, leave themselves open to being able to grow into new positions, get promotions, right? And there's a lot of things that happen when you build a great reputation. But let me tell you why it makes me happy. If you are doing the work you love to do, right, and the rewards come out of it, one of the biggest things that plays into everyone's mind is what am I going to do with money? How am I going to make good money? And so by really taking care of what I do with my work and being happy in doing that and getting great rewards, all of a sudden I become valuable. And when you become valuable, you become referred, you get all the benefits of really making your work happy.
It's such a important point because I do a lot of work with corporates, and I've been reading the research that's coming out around the disengaged employees from the corporation, not really engaged with their work. That there's lack of culture and lack of connection. There's that which is resulting in lack of enthusiasm to do the work. And the so-called burnout is being, people are feeling burnt out because it's such a it's a real grind to turn up every day because they're so disconnected from what they do. So, have you got some tips for someone that's starting 2025 that was unhappy with 2024 and their work environment and what they're doing? Have you got some sort of tips that could really help them find a much better 2025?
So there's a couple of things I would say. If you want to have a great 2025 and you're looking to make work actually, a happier place for you to work in, number one, you have to make sure you're doing work that you love. If you don't, and if you look at, like you said, you look at statistics, look at the statistics, how many people have a side hustle that they work at because it's work that they love? So how do you make your side hustle so that it really is something that you can do and that actually gives you good rewards and you build a good reputation in, at the same time maintaining a good reputation in your own work? I think it's really important. And if you don't have a side hustle and you don't like what you're doing, what are you doing? I think that there's a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of work that you can get into. And I think that it's really important that you find happiness in it. I mean, think about how much time you spend at work, right? So number one for me is make sure you're happy in what you're doing. And the second point to me would be find some role models, right? Find some people who are happy in what they're doing. And you don't have to just find a person. You can find great role models in books. You can actually find some great role models on YouTube if you're looking for specific people. You can find all the information that you want that can really turn what you're doing for work around, right? The third thing is get incredibly mad skills. Get mad skills about something. I mentioned that I love being known as a skillful problem solver. And I've been doing that for so long. When I go into a business now, my skills are I find everything that's working, I make sure that it's working, and then we can actually fix all of the problems quite easily because I've got a pattern for how to actually go about doing that. I've got mad skills when it comes to problem solving in business. So, and I've seen clients grow even through COVID when we had clients. I've seen clients double and double and double and double their business I took a business from $125,000 annually to 1.3, and he's just grown again to 3.2 million, right? So it just makes good sense to get really good mad skills if you want to be known for something. And so the fourth point is you have to know what you want to be known for, right? And once you actually know that, you can then start to work at building a reputation. So you can build that reputation in the office, you can build that reputation online. You know, you can go and build it with your friends. You can build it in so many different ways. But building those mad skills and making sure that you start to really believe in it and start to promote it will change your work environment, and you'll get happy really, really quick.
I love the mad skills terminology. It really resonates with me.
Yeah,
uh,
it's good, right? I mean, but that's the difference. You can have skills, or you can have mad skills, right? I mean, my clients call me the experimenter, right? Because I'm like, yeah, let's try that, right? Let's see what happens. You know, you have to be able to play. But if you don't have mad skills, if you're not really confident in them, how do you then start to experiment? It's not easy to do.
Yeah, 100%. My next one is around, like, obviously, you said, if I had to ask you over a year ago what happiness was to you, you'd have an entirely different answer. And you mentioned some of these things with money and success, but now you've come to the realization it's about building businesses, their reputation, making a great culture within that corporation, and
Yeah,
as well as that relation with your VIP friends.
yeah.
Um, what are some of the myths and thieves of happiness from your perspective?
Well, you know, as much as we all want money, money is the number one thief, right? Because it takes over our brain and we think we need so much money. Everybody wants to make more and more and more money, right? So more money becomes the mantra in most people's brains, and it steals away from our happiness. So what I have been teaching people, and what I actually had to go through myself, right? Especially 10 years ago when I went through my transition, I lost everything. I mean, I had no money coming in, you know, and all I had to do was count on my network to actually start making money. But at the time, I had so little money coming in, but I had to do something to live, to survive at that point. So what I learned was how to manage money. And you manage money in two ways. You manage money by actually taking a look and saying, right, what do I actually need to spend? Right? And what could I manage? What could I actually still keep if I really wanted to, right? And sometimes you have to sacrifice sometimes to actually get more. But here's an interesting thing. You go a few months of managing your money, and guess what happens? You have more money, right? And you start living on a little bit less. I mean, I'm not talking about taking like 50% and trying to put it into savings. That's crazy. But if you took 5% and just put it into savings, right? For most people, that would be a pretty good sum of money at the end of 4, 5, 6 months. And so it's really important that you start to find little ways to actually change how you're managing your money. So that's one thing about money. But here's the other thing. You have to change your mindset, right? You have to change the mindset and make it so that it's more about the prosperous mindset. Prosperity doesn't mean I have tons of money and I've got, I'm surviving at this incredible level and I never have to make any more money again. It means that you actually have a health about your money, right? And when you do that, you start to find that you've gotten rid of one of the things that really robs you of being happy. Because if you're always thinking about making money, making money, making money, you find that a lot of those people are not happy, especially after they've gotten the money, right? The money comes in and you look at that person, and if you were asked the question, is that person any happier in their life? You'd probably say no, right? Because they had spent so much time in it that they lost a lot of things, right? They lost their body because a lot of people get sick through all of that, right? They've lost their mind, they've lost their direction or focus. But they've also done a thing where they've not really worked with their relationships or kept up their relationships, right? And they were no longer happy in business. So I would say that money would be the number one thing. Your health has got to be the second thing that robs you of happiness, right? Let's say you had all the money in the world, but you're sick, like really sick with a cancer or something else, God forbid, right? Are you happy? The answer is probably going to be no, right? What's your focus on money? I don't think so, right? You're going to be looking to take care of your health then at that point. So I don't think it's crazy, outrageous things that actually steal our happiness. I think it's the most common things that we think about all the time that we want the very best of in our life. We want to have a good, healthy financial lifestyle. We want a wealth of incredible people around us, right? And we need good health mentally and physically. And so that's what I think robs us mostly of our happiness, is not focusing on all of those points.
Yeah, a very good point that you raised there, because often we see the highlight reels of other people's success. So we just see their success and that's all we see. But we don't see the journey, the hardships, the struggles, the
Yeah.
losses along the way. And
Oh,
so we're not seeing the full perspective when we,
no.
yeah,
When I say that, this past year, 2024, is what prompted me to want to work on my book, right? So my book's called Not Your Average Joe, because the thing that I actually realized is that I have the ability to stay calm during, things really challenging and things changing all the time. So equanimity is what the word is around that, right? I've got strong equanimity. And even though I had that, I watched life change and change and change and change all around me in all those different areas that we've talked about. I watched business change. I watched relationships. I watched my body and my mind going through a metamorphosis again, right? And then I started looking at what was happening in money and seeing what was really working and not working. And when you actually have the ability to look at all those things, and start to simplify them for yourself, because that's really the important part, is taking any idea about happiness and simplifying it so that you can live it, right? And people go, oh, well, I've set a goal to be happy. Well, you can't set a goal to be happy. Sorry, it just is not going to work out, because the best athletes in the world will tell you that they're taught 30, 30, 30. 30% of the time is going to be incredible. You're going to have incredible skills. You're going to have incredible times. You're going to break your personal records, right? You're going to do really incredible things and you're going to feel unstoppable. But then you're going to run into the next 30%, which is, yeah, those were good. And that's about all you can say about it, right? Those were good. So you run into 30% of your life being good. And we don't know how to accept that anymore, right? If it's not fantastic, if it's not movie quality, then we don't want to know about it, right? But then you've got to realize that there's 30% left there, and that other 30% is crap. It's when, everything hits the fan, right? And you have no idea what to do. Like last week, you're going, man, I was a superstar. This week, I've got no idea who I am, right? And you run into that. But think about that. That means that 30% of your life, okay, you can expect to be like ultimately happy in what you're doing and what's happening to you in your life. And 30% good, well, how do you make a plan for that, right? And then 30% is going to be crap, right? And if you ask most people, they'd say, I think it's more like 50%. But we have to have a plan for that. So how do you do that? I believe it's about making decisions, not setting goals, right? So making the decision that when things are great, enjoy it. Take notes, understand what you did. How did you create that? How did you keep your energy up? What was going on with your mind? What was happening with your body? What was happening in your world? And if you've got that, it's something that you can refer to, relate to. You can strengthen your mind and your brain based on that. So when things are good, you can now compare them and see the difference, not against somebody else, but against you, right? This is me being incredible. This is me being good, right? And then this is me surviving, holding on for dear life, right? So you have a way to look at it, and you can almost start to find a pattern in it. And when you start to find your own patterns in happiness, you realize you really can't set a goal, right? See, what nobody ever calls me on is this 30, 30, 30. There's 10% left. What is that last 10%? That last 10% is I have no freaking idea what happened, right? And it's where things completely fall apart, where you end up having to start over. How many people are good at starting over? Most people aren't even good at starting, right? So when you start to take a life and look at it in that way and realize that each year looks like that, you then get the idea that if I take 2024, erase the 24 and put a 25 and flip my year over and I do it again, the best you can hope for is 30, 30, 30, 10, right? But the question is, when does each 30% show up, right? This is why you cannot make a plan in a place where you have so much uncertainty. And you have to learn to really enjoy uncertainty, right? I wake up with, and I think I mentioned this to you last year, it's still my mantra every single morning. I wake up and I say, I wonder what great things are going to happen for me today. And that's my mantra. And I've been doing that for, God, 10, 11 years. And I do that because I want my mind to be looking for the best, right? If it's a crap day, then it's a crap day, but it's my best crap day, right? If it's a start over day, then it's like, and everything exploded. Well, I'm still looking for great things to happen from it. So I think that that's really how I would suggest looking at that.
Yeah, because I relate back to that 30% that you said, crap or whatever, not so good. And that for some people's often 50%. And it's because they don't have that mantra that you have at the start of the day. You're looking for the good in the day, whatever it brings, right? Whereas some people are probably starting out the day with the mantra, oh, what shit's going to happen to me today? And they find more shit, right?
Yeah. Well, that and the other thing is they don't actually, if I don't know what good is, right, or the makings of good, then I accept it as a crap day. But how many times, and I know you do this because you're Mr. Positive, but in the middle of a crap day, you go, hold on a minute. I remember several, and you're looking back at your journal, I remember several crap days that turned out to be good or awesome days because I did blank, blank, and blank, right? And I turned it around. So this is why you have to know the difference between those so that you can actually turn a crap day into a good day into a great day, right? And that becomes really, really important to know the difference. Otherwise, you go, just a day.
And that reflects on, in terms of like summarizing it, is that a companion of yours is that reflection process. So what went, like, why did it go so well? And then you're understanding through that reflection process as to what attributed the greatness of the day, and then, or why didn't it go so well, and what can I do about it next time? So that reflective process seems to be a real companion of happiness for you. And then the other one I picked up on was the comparison effect. So, that can be a real thief in terms of,
Yeah.
yes, like thinking, well, yeah, I had a great day, but then you look at someone else's highlight reel and you're thinking, oh, it wasn't as good as that. So,
Yeah. But when you learn that you're your biggest competition, right? Then you actually only compare yourself to yourself. This is what top athletes are taught to do. But let me tell you how well this type of a process works, Anthony. I brought it into my businesses and I brought it into my clients' businesses. And instead of having that, morning meeting where everybody's half asleep and trying to slug as much coffee as possible, right? They're not really thinking about what's happening. But if you switch it to the end of the day, we were doing ours at 4:30 every day, and I taught everybody in my business, you must be there, and this is what we're doing. We're talking about What kind of day was it? What made it that kind of day? What could you have done? Who did you affect, negatively or positively, because of the day? And how do we get more awesome days, right? And when we did that, our productivity went up. It was incredible. Our clients started catching fire because they were like, "What are you guys smoking?" Right? Because we were up and positive and there was so much getting done. Response to client needs was great. So it's a really powerful process. And it's not just for an individual. Bring it into your team, bring it into your business if you own one, and watch what happens. Your business will catch fire.
It's so true, and I think it's something that's really missing from the everydays. Like people are filling their days like back-to-back meetings, and they're always chasing something.
Yeah.
But there's very little time between meetings, or at the end of the day, or at the start of the day, in your case, to actually reflect and to that thinking time. And in that thinking time is where we can really manifest what we want. By yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, think about what the opposite is. If I do my meetings in the morning, I'm asking my team to guess, right? Guess at what's going to happen today. So somebody tell me what's going to happen today. Nobody wants to tell you because nobody has any idea. But at the end of the day, they can actually get reflective. But it's interesting too that the next day gets infectious about doing a better day, right? And because we know we're going to be talking about it at the end of the day in that reflective process.
Yeah, that's such great insights. So, really, thank you for sharing that. In terms of what is one thing about happiness that you would like to know that's a bit ambiguous or a bit, yeah, is there anything of happiness that you thought about and you quite haven't got a tangible answer for? Or
Yeah, I would tell you so. You know the book Eat, Pray, Love.
I don't, but
Oh, you
tell.
don't.
No, no.
You need to get to that one,
Okay.
Anthony, because it was written by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it talks about her sitting down and going, what am I going to, how am I going to spend my next year? I want to give it three words, and I want to spend my next year doing those three things: eat, pray, love, right? So she ends up going to Rome for 4 months. Then she goes to India for 4 months. And then she goes to Indonesia at the end. But why I bring that up is because my biggest struggle has been that even though I've got very good intuitions, and that's what helps me to be creative and solve problems, we have two people in with us all times. You've got an internal and an external person. And the external person actually tries to dominate what's happening, right, in your life. And so I've really been working on that internal happiness. Some people say, "Oh no, she's going to talk about meditation," right? Well, I don't actually do meditation, right? I don't think that that's necessary to go that far. But you do have to look inside and see what's going on, what's actually there that could be countering what I'm seeing as happiness in my external world. And many times, you have a lot of fears. But we only end up with fears because we don't know how to take care of it. We don't really realize, number one, that fear is completely about your past. Okay? Have a fear about the future and you're guessing, right? Because how can you have a fear that hasn't even come true? So you're only having fears about the past. So I've really been doing a lot of work and a lot of study around how to actually change the internal landscape. Imagine gardening with your eyes closed, right? That's the same thing as working on the interior. You actually have to get a feel for it, right? A feel for the soil, a feel for the leaves, right? A feel for the weather, a feel for how much water you need to actually give your garden. And it's the same thing with us, right? We have to go internal. And so to really grow my happiness, and it's not really even grow, it's enhance my happiness. it's really about the internal journey for me at this point. And no matter what you do, if you start working on that internal journey, your external changes tremendously, right? Because you get so much more resilience. You find a persistence within you that you can't actually create in the outer world. You can actually take action, 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 action. But as you mentioned early on, that's how people get burnout. So this whole internal element has really become very, very powerful. It's my next level of happiness.
It's really becoming one with everyone and everything, ultimately, isn't it? Because we our external world is a reflection of our inner world, and so if we're evolving that inner world, the outer world changes, and so
It does. But here's my challenge to you. Try and convince somebody of that, right? If you actually will sit with yourself, know about yourself, your job will get better, your money will get better, your relationships will get better, your body will get better. And most people can't believe it. It's that old saying, right? If you can't see it, you can't believe it. But you better, because it is your health is depending on it, right? Your body and your mind are perishable. Your body and your mind are perishable, right? So you have to work on that. I'm going to use the word spirit. You have to work on that internal spirit. But where do you see spirit? Well, you see it in your relationships, in your work, and in your finances. That's where you actually see your spirit. So when you're working on yourself, body, mind, and spirit is what they always tell us. This is why you have to go inside first to find that, to find out, how am I feeling about the people that that I'm with, that I'm around, that I call my VIPs, right? Do they make my heart sing? Right? Do they bring up intuitions? When I'm working, do I feel incredible at work? And it really becomes a lot about how you feel in that way. And when you do that, it just changes everything. We truly are energy, right? So we may have lost a small part of your audience here because, you're going to that internal side and they want to know about how to grow the external side. But if there's two of you living inside of you and you only take care of one, think about any relationship where that happens. One person in a relationship is being taken care of. What do? They go away. So you have to take care of both your inner and your outer. And you have to love them both, right? And that's not easy for most people to comprehend. But that's why I called it next level happiness. That's my next level of happiness.
fantastic. It's so much insight you shared on this short recording. So I really appreciate, Joanna, all the insights you've shared. Just, is there anything that we didn't speak about that you'd love to share with the listeners in concluding?
I think I've dumped my guts.
I, I,
I love when we talk. You actually pull that kind of stuff out of me, Anthony, which is really fun.
Yeah, I was figuring that. I was thinking, like, obviously I've got some preloaded questions here, and I'm looking at them and thinking, no, you've answered that, you've answered that, you've answered that, and I'm thinking there's nothing more than I really, I thought it was very comprehensive. So I really appreciate the detail that you've shared with the listeners. Now, how can the listeners best connect with you?
Oh, thank you very much for asking. So they can go to jjferrari.com, and in March they're going to see two books being launched. One is a business book, and it's actually called Catching Fire: How to Get Paid More Often. And then the other one is called Not Your Average Joe, because I think most people, if they watch this, would say, she's not your average Joe. And the subtitle for it is The Unofficial Guide to Creating the Life You Can't Wait to Live. So if they go to my website, they can connect with me. You can ask me questions. I would just love to hear you say hello. And I'll actually be putting this up onto my website when you get it out and going public as well, Anthony.
Oh, fantastic. And I really appreciate your time. And it's so great. This annual catch up, it seems to have fallen. Last time we caught up was a year ago on the Health Up podcast. So glad to get your insights for 2025.
Thank you. And I guess I'll see you next year.
Absolutely. And And thank you for the listeners for tuning in once again. Please share this with anyone that you believe that could benefit from JJ insights. They were terrific. They were very comprehensive, very detailed, and explained them really thoroughly. So please get it out there, share it amongst your friends and family. And until next time, continue to discover your joy.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.